Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Cannabis Tech Talks. You are chopping it up with Chuck. I'm the editor in chief of the award winning Cannabis and Tech Today, and we are here with a very, very special guest. We have with us today, we have Jon Goldman, the senior vice president of mortgage lending with Guaranteed Rate Affinity. Jon, how the heck are you?
I'm doing great, Chuck. Doing great. Thank you for having me today. I really appreciate it.
I really
Listen, we
appreciate
got some
you
really
coming
exciting stuff.
here. Yes, I want to make a promise to our listeners because nobody really likes talking about a mortgage or refinancing their current mortgage. In fact, I've seen a recent poll that people would rather get a COVID test, sit in traffic, or go to an insurance conference than talk about mortgages. But we've got some good stuff for them today, don't we?
Yeah, and I appreciate you setting that bar so high there. So, I think we're gonna, I think it's gonna be a positive direction no matter what at this point. Thanks, Chuck.
Hey, listen, if you've been to an insurance convention, you know things can only go up from here. And I used to sell insurance. Yeah, I was going to say, I used to sell insurance, so I know something.
Or if you said in traffic in Chicago, it's the same type of thing, let me tell you. So
Yeah. And let's get a quick background. So you live in Chicago?
Yeah, lived in Chicago my whole life. Yeah, so I'm pretty excited. I been in the business for going on 24 years. Got a family, got 3 kids, and a beautiful wife that we live in the suburbs of Chicago with. So it's been an interesting time through COVID.
Yeah, and you've got a dog.
Ireland, yeah, our 60-pound puppy that thinks he's a lap dog. So makes for a lot of interesting evenings, let me tell you.
Yeah. So Illinois, by the way, is it's going pretty gangbusters over there with the cannabis industry, right?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because I got a lot of friends that have been involved in the industry. So I know tangentially for the last 10 years has been a big push. First on the medical side, and then obviously the recreational side in Illinois. I'll tell you, I'm an advocate and an enthusiast. So I'm a big fan of all the product that could help make you feel better, both from a medical point of view, and obviously there's a lot of industrial uses too. But listen, Illinois has really been one of the I would say one of the leaders in the recreational field at this point. And I know a lot of other states are looking at it, but it's been a great run.
Yeah, and you're with let's see, I want to make sure I say this right. Guaranteed Rate Affinity.
Yeah, so Guaranteed Rate Affinity, we're licensed in all the continental U.S., so we lend in every single state. We've been around for Guaranteed Rate Affinity itself has been around for 3 years. We're a division of a company called Guaranteed Rate Incorporated. Probably seen some advertising around. If you're a big White Sox fan, we sponsor the ballpark there. But the company itself, Guaranteed Rate Incorporated, did about $70 billion last year in residential loans, and I think we employ just north of 5,000 employees at this point.
Wow. So This is a big company. You guys are a big player, and you actually have some good news to share with our audience. Let's jump into it. I mean, who doesn't like good news?
Well, listen, I mean, here's the thing. I've been really studying the industry. I've always been a student of anything that I'm doing. And I really like to dive in and really get to know not just the product, the company, or people that I'm working with. And that's including my clients. I like to get in and know what kind of business they're in and what do they do and how do they help and so on. So, one of the things that we really found interesting was that I started to talk to people in the actual field itself. And I'm not just talking about people that are selling, either growing, selling, or actually working in the shops, but tangentially, the cannabis magazines, the people that are suppliers. And there seemed to be like a constant theme that was coming up over and over. I actually went to, Chuck, I don't know if you know this or not, but I actually went to the Emerge conference in the winter. And it was great. I spoke to little
shout out to Emerge.
There you go. And I spoke to dozens of people. I was kind of hanging out, going from room to room. First of all, the platform itself is incredible. I thought it was definitely where the industry is heading from a conference point of view. And I heard their stories, and it was the same theme that I heard over and over again, which was interesting. Which was they just felt like growing as the industry was growing up, that there's certain parts that were not growing up with the industry itself. And it kind of became a little disgruntled, disgruntling for me because I don't know, it looked like people felt like they were being discriminated against. in some form or fashion. So, I kind of really started to dig in and say, how can I help, the industry itself, as well as, the families that are affected by this.
Well, and that's good because we want to bring value to our audience. And I think that's, that they're definitely going to get some after this, but there's a couple areas where people in the cannabis industry might feel discriminated against. Like number one, I feel like they feel like they're taxed out of the yazoo, sometimes double taxed, sometimes triple taxed, right? I think we can agree with that. The other thing is they can't declare bankruptcy, but I believe that there's some kind of restrictions on, if a cannabis business goes out, they can't declare bankruptcy, which is it's a major deal, right? That's a huge kind of discrimination, if you will. And the other one is that I didn't realize until just recently, before we set up this podcast, was banking, financing, and specifically
Difficult.
buying a house.
Yeah. So, once again, discrimination, it's an interesting, so I don't know if, I want to be clear. I think people may feel like they're being discriminated against it, but when you pay your taxes and you're paying your taxes and they're federally taxed, correct? And you can't, and I think that's leading to your bankruptcy question before, because bankruptcy is a federal, action, that it's illegal. Cannabis is illegal federally. So what happens is, how come I could pay taxes, or how come they're, taxing my paycheck, but I can't use that same income that I pay taxes on to qualify for a loan to buy a home? So that's kind of the conundrum that I really started to dig into. And I'm like, something doesn't really seem fair here. Let me see how I could go and help. And that's kind of what I started to do and research and talk to a lot of different people and try to talk to the people that advocate for the industry itself and see how we could help. That was really my driving mission at that point.
And I mean, there's a lot of cannabis employees and cannabis business owners in the country, right? I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands.
Hundreds of thousands. So listen, like I said to you before, I've been doing this for 24 years. I've helped north of 6,000 families. In fact, we've closed over 400 transactions this year alone, just myself. So we're feeling and seeing this. And, what was hard for me is that I was seeing a long time ago when I was in the business, I went through some financial stuff with the industry in 07 and 08, and came to a point where I had to make some decisions, and I owned a home and I wasn't able to own a home anymore, and that wore on me really, really hard. And when I was able to get back on my feet, and it created a certain sense of empathy for people that are not able to own a home, and it started becoming a driving mission for me, which was, how do I help people enjoy the rights that I feel all humans should have, which is to own your own place. And so that was kind of what really pushed me into, let me see if I could figure this out, and let me see if I could help the families, to help people, because I know how good it feels to actually own your own home.
Yeah. And just speak to that for a second. I mean, you obviously are not just any mortgage broker, you kind of, it sounds like you sort of understand, you're kind of an advocate. Why do you think that, that it is a right, to own your own home?
Well, listen, I think that because, once again, as we talked about before, there's something special about walking through your own house, making a little mark on the wall where Johnny was this age and Johnny was this age and Johnny was this age. And it brings a special sense of self-worth. And, I think that the industry itself has this cloud over it that somehow, because of how cannabis used to be illegal, in certain states. Now, obviously, medical marijuana has been legalized at many more states. I don't know the exact count. I believe I think recreational is now in 16 states, I believe, something 15 or 16 states. And it's only going to trend north. And it appears like, hopefully, the government's going to make a rational decision here and maybe legalize it at the federal level. But it's become a real issue, which is like, how do people, they can't enjoy what I enjoy? And how is that fair? They work just as hard. They're pulling the 8 to 10, 12-hour day shifts, whether it's, in the fields cultivating, if it's in the stores, if it's someone that's making lighting equipment for the cannabis industry. And I want them to enjoy what I enjoy, which is coming home to my family and feeling the love and warmth that a house brings you.
Yeah. And also, it's really nice when you go onto Zillow and you see that your house has gone up in value, 10% or 12% or something, that feels good, right?
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother, a house isn't just a place where you hang your hat and your family stays, but it also should be a really good investment for you. It can be. The vast majority of wealth in the United States has always been created through real estate, right? I bought my home for $1, had it for 10 years, sold it for $1.50, and that continues to roll on and roll on. So even though appreciation in your home is not an inalienable right, we hope that values go up, but it's always, paying your mortgage down and creating that equity bubble has always been something that you can do. And that, I truly believe that it's a great investment in most markets.
Okay. And listen, I love where this is going. We got to pay the bills over here. So I got to take a quick commercial break. But when we come back, we're going to talk more about the right of home ownership, how it affects, people that work in the cannabis industry. And I want to ask you specifically, why was Guaranteed Rate able to figure out a way to serve, these hundreds of thousands of people? And we'll get to that right after this commercial break. We have absolutely some more awesome things to talk about, and we'll be back right after this break.
Today's episode of Cannabis and Tech Talks is brought to you by ACS Laboratory, the largest hemp and cannabis testing facility in the southeastern United States, providing a nationwide courier service for CBD and hemp samples. From potency testing and terpene profiling to testing for residual solvents and heavy metals, ACS Laboratory offers a wide range of tests from their state-of-the-art 20,000 square foot ISO 17025 accredited laboratory. With 21 Emerald badges 2 years in a row, you can have the satisfaction knowing your results will be consistent and accurate. Learn more about ACS Laboratory, go to acslabcannabis.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. We are here at Cannabis Tech Talks. You are chopping it up with Chuck, and we are talking to Jon Goldman, Senior Vice President. Man, that's a good title right there. Guaranteed Rate. And he is talking about how Guaranteed Rate and how his company is able to serve people in the cannabis industry where before they might have been disqualified due to banking and such. So, Jon, how are you guys able to pull this off? I mean, this sounds like a pretty big thing for your company. And why hasn't another mortgage company, or another lender done this?
Well, it's a great question, Chuck. So once again, I think it's important to understand, like I said, a little bit of the background being that, with cannabis being illegal still at the, federal level, any bank that serves cross borders. So if they're going from Illinois, Wisconsin, a Chase, a Wells, or whatever, they have to follow federal law. Why? Because one state's different than the other state. So the big disconnect is that any of those larger institutions are not going to take the risk. And this is the same issue that you guys have with transactional stuff in the cannabis industry. They're not going to take the risk of having the federal government come in and say, hey, you're money laundering, or whatever the term would be for whatever action over state borders. So with us being a mortgage broker, and what we do is we're a correspondent lender. We go and lend our own money. We close the transactions, then we sell them off to investors, depending on, once again, these are very large investors, but we sell them off to investors and we kind of recoup our money. So that's how the mortgage broker world works versus a bank, where you go and you make your deposits and then they lend out your money. So this is our money that we lend out. And so we have a little bit more wiggle room in the way that where we actually place those loans. So what happens is that I really did a lot of research. Like I said, from going to your conference, talking to a lot of people in the industry, having friends in the industry, advocating for the industry, being an enthusiast of the industry, I started, really thinking to myself, well, is there a way that we could slot certain investors for these loans that don't have the federal exposure that would limit them to do something like this? So the answer is, after probably 4 to 5 months of very detailed work and making a ton of calls and working with all the people in my organization, we found some people that are totally fine as long as it's legalized in that specific state where we are lending the money. They are fine with going forward and lending money for residential transactions, which to me was like, wow, I can actually fulfill a mission that I started previously. Like I said, 23 years ago, I wanted to help people, and we've continued to help more and more. And now it's like I have a whole new world that's been open to me. And I'm so excited by the fact that I'm going to be able to see that smiling face of someone walking into that house for the first time that they could buy it, or the kids running to their rooms, picking out which one is theirs, or whatever, emotional joy and satisfaction I do get from my job.
Dude, I'm feeling it. I'm getting the feels right there, man.
I hope you are, because it's really, it's an amazing thing. If you only do this business to try and make money, you're not going to be very successful in it. It's a tough business that grinds out. But if you're there because you have the right center, you're coming from the right place.
Yeah.
That's what drives me in this business, and that's what should drive most people. So I saw this disconnect, and I found a way I believe to solve it. And what makes me different than everybody else? Well, I did my research. I took my time. I listened to the people that had issues, and I'm addressing those. So,
and you're also a true believer in the plant.
I'm a true believer in the plant from a industrial production point of view. And once again, it's not just about smoking it or eating it. There's industrial applications. We have, once again, the home medical world, is gigantic. PTSD, talking about all these other symptoms that could be dealt with possibly. You and I talked about some other stuff regarding, how they get veterans. Veterans get, the prescriptions that they get for the veterans are sometimes brutal for their bodies.
Yeah.
They can't handle the effects. So there's a lot of stuff, like I said, that I really believe is beneficial in the cannabis world.
Yeah, I'm just saying you're actually a guy who believes in the plant, who believes in the benefits and stuff.
Yeah.
You didn't just notice, hey, there's an underserved market. Let me put on my weed shirt and come over here and try to get some business.
So I did go to University of Colorado Boulder. I did go to University of Wisconsin at Madison. Yeah. Once again, not claiming of anything, but like I said, I've been around it for a while, and I've seen the true positive effect of when it's used the right way in the industry and in society. So I am a big believer, and I am a big enthusiast, and guess what? I'm a big advocate.
Yeah. No, man, it doesn't make you a bad guy, especially not on this show. So talk real brief. You mentioned, we talked about you being a believer in the plant. Philanthropically, you are involved with the Concussion Legacy Foundation. Speak to that real quick,
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, I have this, when you're in the industry that we're in, it's a grind, day in, day out, crank on your phones, talking to people. And so you're always looking for this outlet. What connects you to this part of the world, and what's special to you? So a guy named Chris Nowinski started an organization called the Concussion Legacy Foundation. And it's really kind of threefold. One, the big driving mission. You've heard about the brain bank. I think you've heard about people that have had CTE, and NFL players and a bunch of professional athletes has really talked about donating their brains because they're trying to study the effects of CTE and how they affect the human brain. And obviously, unfortunately, the suicides that have really increased greatly due to what we believe a connection with concussions and CTE. The other thing that's really interesting is the organization works a lot with the military. And they have blast, what they call blast concussions, which, an IED goes off. There's a sonic wave that goes through and kind of shatters your head side to side. You don't get knocked down. You may not be like, whoa, what's happening to me? But repeated concussion blasts could have the same effect and create, once again, the effects potentially of CTE and affect people's brains, emotions, and so on. So those two things, the organization itself really started to drive me into wow, what else could this be used for? And then, you and I started a conversation about the medical effects of about how it can be used to treat PTSD, how it can be used to treat certain types of depression, and so on and so forth. And once again, if someone is on medication that they have no appetite, it can be helped to obviously increase the appetite too. The third thing that our organization does that I love is we deal with kids. And so we deal with getting kids to recognize the effects of a concussion and how important it is to recognize if someone on your team has a concussion, you got to speak up. We call it Team Up, Speak Up. So between that and another thing that's dear to my heart is our company itself, the Guaranteed Rate. We've donated. We have a food issue, and we've donated in this country, and we've donated over 2 million meals last year alone to people that needed food for food pantries. So
that's really cool, man. I love giving our time to talk about social impact. I just think it's so important. I think for the veterans, for the athletes, I love seeing companies do stuff to give back. So that's really, really cool, and I appreciate you kind of sharing that part with us. So getting back to the homeownership, let's give the audience a couple of tips. Can you give them a couple of okay, they're ready to jump in the game, even though it's a freaking seller's market like you wouldn't believe, at least here in Colorado.
It really is.
It's a seller's market.
Really
give them a couple tips if they're thinking that they want to jump in the game.
So first tip, call me.
Okay.
No, seriously. So there's two things that I really focus on whenever I start talking to a client about the potential of home ownership, or even if they are looking to buy up to another place. There's two things I always say. Forget about percent down, forget about, all these fancy numbers and all these, what we want to focus on is, what is your monthly payment every single month with your taxes, your insurance, your association dues? What is coming out of your bank account every single month? You got to be comfortable with that number. What I could qualify you for may be a lot more than you're comfortable separating with. So I really focus on, is that a comfort zone? Mm-hmm. Number two, at the end of the day, when you close on your house, how much is going to be gone from your checking account? I call it the chunk price. So you want to know what you're paying every single month, and you want to know what's going to be gone from your bank account, T-1, 0, and then T+1. What's going to be left? So even though you're putting 5% down, 3% down, 20% down, there's going to be closing costs. There's going to be, you're going to have to move. You may want to paint your house. You may want to do some upkeep. So we really focus on what's that comfort level monthly, and what's that comfort level with your total savings at the end of the day. So that's kind of really our focus. So I think people really need to think about those two things before they jump into the conversation of, hey, I want to go buy a house.
Yeah. And, obviously just having your financials in order, having everything so that you can go through, like, I mean, I things have probably changed a lot, since the past 15, 20 years. I mean, I bought a house with an option arm. I refinanced it stated, right? They were just like, just tell us what you make. And they even said, when you refinance, how much do you want to take out? I was like, I don't know, 100. They're like, no problem, so is it, has it changed a lot in the past, say 10 or 15 years when it comes to options and, things like that?
Yeah, 2008 really was a big reset. So the loan you're talking about, they used to call Fast and Easy.
Yeah.
That was the name of it. Fast and Easy. How much do you want? How much do you make? Here's your money. Yeah. Well, that didn't turn out too good for 2009, 2010, and 2011, did it?
Didn't turn out good for me either, buddy.
Well, the good news is, there's been plenty of years that have passed. So
yeah.
We're more than happy to help, Chuck. But at the end of the day, I really think, like you said, I think it's important if you're getting ready for home ownership. So here's some things that you need to know. You're going to need 30 days of pay stubs. So get 1 month of your pay stubs. Just gather them so you have them together. W-2s for 19 and 20. So you're going to need 2 years of W-2s. Get 1 month of your asset statements, checking, savings, your retirement accounts. And that's really the best way to start. So pay stub, W-2s, your checking, savings, asset accounts. That is what we need to start. That's it.
Yeah.
So I think there's been there's this big mystery around what do we do in this big finance business and all these pieces. At the end of the day, we try to simplify the process to you, streamline it, try to make it not so overwhelming. I want to reduce your anxiety level going in. Therefore, it reduces my anxiety level throughout the process because you're cool, I'm cool, we're all going to be cool.
Yeah.
We close on time, we make the process efficient, we communicate well, we're transparent. And if we can live up to all those things, hopefully it's not as bad as getting a COVID test, sitting in
insurance seminar
or an insurance seminar. So
hey, one last question, because I know we're getting out of time here. Are there any trends that you're noticing? Like, one of the things I was curious about is with this whole COVID thing, when people are looking for homes, are they more aware of, this is where I'm going to work? Are they more aware of, what I mean? This might be where my kid's going to school. What are kind of some of the trends you're seeing right now?
So this is an interesting topic for me. So I now work remote because our offices are closed because of COVID. So, I've been home with my family for the last 9.5 months. I personally enjoyed the time because it gave me a great chance to reconnect, not just with my kids, but my wife and, like you said, my dog, who loves having me around every day.
Big lap dog.
big lap dog. But what we're seeing is, over the last few years, there's been a big push to cities, big push. Denver's a perfect example, Chicago, another one, big push to actually the metropolitan cities for lifestyle, for, high-rise condos going up, you go 1 million restaurants, all that kind of stuff. Well, obviously that's changed right now because of COVID, but also the other thing that's really changed is people have realized that they can work remotely almost as effective as they have going into an office. So in certain cases, depending on where you live, it could be 2-3 hours commute. California,
Yeah.
could be 2 hours each way. I worked in the suburbs, and if I was going to downtown, it could take me an hour, hour and a half each way. So the ability to be more effective and productive in your work life is leading to a change in the way people buy homes. They want, before they love these big open floor plans. Now people want spaces where they could shut a door. Case in point, I'm in my office in the house with the door shut. So you don't have a bunch of people running in. So, but same type of thing. So what I'm seeing is a huge trend towards space that's functional in a house to incorporate both school, office, and then obviously your recreational and family life. So yeah, it's a big push. So the suburbs are hot again.
Yeah.
That's the way to say it. So people want space. People want to be able to run outside, go throw a football with your kid for an hour, recharge yourself, and go back to work. And I think that's going to be something, that's a genie that's not going back in the bottle.
Yeah.
I talked to a lot of my friends, a lot of people about it, and they love the flex lifestyle. And I think that's actually going to be a benefit that companies are actually going to be selling as using for recruiting, which is, hey, we'll let you work flex 3 days a week. We'll let you work 5 days a week. Hey, you want to go down and work in the Bahamas and, log in from 9 to 5 every day in front of your computer? We're happy with that. Where before people wanted them in the office, in the space.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big change.
I think so too. And I think we've got a good thing going here. It seems like companies are figuring out how to pivot.
Yeah.
And we're getting the work done. We're doing the best we can despite these crazy times. And I just think it's really cool to see what you guys are doing there to help, people buy homes, because it's an important part. Like you said, it's the right of home ownership, and, people in the cannabis industry shouldn't be excluded from that.
So it's interesting. Just a little stat. I believe it's just north of 80% of our employees work remotely.
Wow.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Over 80%. And by the way, that was the number. I don't know exactly what the number was, but it wasn't too far away from that this was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
So we're big believers in our company about flex space and about giving people a lifestyle and really enjoying their families. And to your point, after COVID and everything else, if you haven't learned anything, it's, love the ones you're with. And, I can't be happy enough for that. So.
Well, there's no better way to end this podcast, Jon. Yeah. I mean, you just wrapped it up with a ribbon and a bow here. Let our audience know where they can get a hold of you. Here's the shout out time.
All right, here we go. So Jon Goldman, Jon Goldman. You can reach me at the initial J, the initial G at grarate.com. That's the initial J, the initial G at grarate.com. And once again, we have a great platform. We got great digital technology. And once again, more importantly, I can't thank you enough, Chuck. This was great. It's such an exciting group of people to talk with and to talk, be involved in. And the cannabis industry, it's not stopping. So thank you for everything. I really appreciate the time.
Oh, absolutely, man. Thanks for being our guest here. And I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more from you and Guaranteed Rate, in the near future in the cannabis industry. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to that time where this episode is over. If you liked it, go ahead and hit the like button. Make sure that you subscribe, share with your friends, and don't forget to follow us on social media. Stay involved with the conversation. We always bring great guests. We're always featuring awesome, innovative products and different companies. So again, we love having you here on Cannabis Tech Talks. Thank you so much for joining us. For my guests, for all the people that helped put this together, thanks again. And we'll see you next time on Cannabis Tech Talks.